the camera on? Camera's on. Okay, great. So my name is Rachel, and I am going to be doing a Bitcoin Basics for Women course today. So let's go ahead and start the slides. So today is International Women's Day, and it is also Bitcoin Women's Day. So in honor of Bitcoin Women's Day, I wanted to do something special. And what I wanted to do was to do a webinar about how to get started with Bitcoin. So I'm going to be talking about that today. Ah, there it is. Hello, screen. You can see my pebbles. I really like rocks. Okay. So here it is, and we'll say play. Okay, so my name is Rachel Joiner-Escola, and my company is Makeover It, and this is Bitcoin Basics for Women for Bitcoin Women's Day, Women's Bitcoin Day. I always get too confused. Anyway, so we've been doing Bitcoin for a while now. So I would say probably since December of 2013 was when we started with Bitcoin, and it's been kind of a crazy ride since then, if any of you know what's been going on with Bitcoin. A lot of bad things have happened, but also a lot of good has been done with Bitcoin, and it continues to grow and develop as hundreds of millions of dollars have been paid into Bitcoin. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so here's our agenda. We're going to talk about what is Bitcoin, myths about Bitcoin, benefits of Bitcoin, how do people get Bitcoin, staying safe, regulation, taxation, spending, giving, that's my favorite, examples, getting started, and then Q&A. Okay, so what is Bitcoin? So Bitcoin is digital currency, which means that there is no paper money. So I had something about fiat, and when people talk about fiat, they're talking about paper money. And so basically what happened back in the 70s was that there's no longer gold standard. So the dollar is no longer backed by gold, which means that if central banks want to print more money, they can. So there's really no restriction on it other than what different laws govern central banks and their currency. So, and of course, I just said no central bank. So there's no one really in charge. There's no one really saying that that no, you can't do that, or yes, you can. I'll talk a little bit more about the Bitcoin Foundation later, but there's really no big thing about that. So it's actually based on an algorithm, so it's actually computerized money. So it's sometimes called a cryptocurrency because it's based on cryptography. So you'll hear that a lot, or a digital currency. And then the transactions are public, but identities are not. So that means that so you have Bitcoin addresses, and so people can see Bitcoin addresses and where Bitcoin is coming to or from, but your identities aren't published publicly at all. So you don't know who the person is behind that address. Okay, so here's some myths about Bitcoin. Only criminals use it. Really? Anyway, I think that part of the problem with Bitcoin is that it does get a lot of bad press, and that's why people say that only criminals use it. I don't believe that at all. There are lots of good people doing some great things with Bitcoin around the world, and when there's a risk of theft, if you have too much money, it's best if you have Bitcoin, especially in sort of countries where corruption might be high. Everything is done anonymously. So the key word here is pseudonymous. So that's it's pseudo-anonymity, because even though it seems like it's private, it's really not. So yes, there are ways for law enforcement personnel to track people through Bitcoin, even if they complain that they can't. Your Bitcoin will get hacked or stolen. There are different ways, and we'll discuss that on the safety slide, of ways to protect your Bitcoin so that then you don't have to worry about that your Bitcoin will get hacked or stolen. So here are the benefits of Bitcoin. So low transaction fees. So if you do any business at all, you understand that that transaction fees for credit cards can be very high. And in fact, at certain places, they have a minimum amount that you have to buy in order to use a credit card. This is one of the reasons why. So another benefit of Bitcoin is that it cannot be censored. So as long as you have access to the internet or any sort of device like a cell phone, you can still do transactions with Bitcoin. The other thing that it is that it's permanent. So there's something called the blockchain, and on the blockchain is where all the addresses where Bitcoin has been sent to and from. So it's the blockchain lists all of the addresses that have sent and all the addresses that have received a Bitcoin, and that's permanent. And that's actually that's what we were talking about earlier, that it's actually public, so that you can actually download a list of the transactions. The other thing is you can transfer money anywhere in minutes. So this is kind of amazing because normally it takes like 3 days to transfer money between bank accounts, and even longer if you're doing something internationally. But this means that you can send a payment from here to practically anywhere in the world in 10 minutes or less. So so that's pretty amazing because, rather than waiting 3 days to receive payment, now it's just a matter of minutes. So there's a fixed supply. So part of Bitcoin being an algorithm is that there's only there's only a fixed supply, and that's part of the Bitcoin code. And there are no boundaries. This is not a currency that is owned by any country or corporation or anyone else. Okay, so how do you get Bitcoins? So one of them is through Bitcoin mining. So Bitcoin mining is what you do is that you're trying to solve this equation. So this very complicated algorithm, you're trying to solve it. And it has a difficulty level. So when it becomes more and more difficult, the more Bitcoins are mined. And so and thus the processors and things get faster too. Another way to get them is through Bitcoin ATMs. So you can actually, you can actually look them up, and you can find Bitcoin ATMs where you can go and exchange cash for Bitcoin. And also they have two-way Bitcoin ATMs now where you can also receive cash from Bitcoin. Another way is through Bitcoin exchanges, and this is, they're usually online. And so what you can do is you can transfer in money from your bank account and they'll change it to Bitcoin, and vice versa. Another thing you can do is to ask for Bitcoin instead of local currency. So there are many different ways that you can set up a cart or an invoice, or even putting a pay button on your site, and you can accept Bitcoin that way. The other way is to, just have a smartphone at your store, and it's actually being built into to some apps that are used for retail and for restaurants, so that then you can actually much more easily accept Bitcoin at your local business. So this is the fun one that we kind of stuck in. The fifth one is go to the right college. So there are some colleges that are giving away Bitcoin to their students, one of them being MIT, which is not so far away from here. So that's why we put in go to the right college, because there are a lot of students, and especially kind of more technical students, that are really getting behind Bitcoin. So, and in fact, the MIT COOP accepts Bitcoin there. Okay, so safety first. So, it's very important to talk about safety in Bitcoin, because I think that that's one of the things is that, people have there's such a bad reputation around Bitcoin in terms of safety. So I just wanted to address that first. So your private key is private. Do not share it. Do not put it out on the internet. You are asking people to steal from you. So don't do that. The second thing is to back up your private key, because if you lose it, whatever Bitcoin you have is lost forever. So just make sure that you keep a backup somewhere offline. You don't want to have it online. The third one is to choose a good quality wallet. So, we're talking about addresses and your private key and things like that. It's really important to choose a good quality wallet that is well known, that's reputable, so that then you can, because then otherwise, if you don't choose a good wallet, then again, you're kind of asking to get stolen from. So if you are just planning on holding Bitcoin instead of spending it, so if you're going to hold Bitcoin for a little while, make sure that you utilize vaults, cold storage, paper wallets, or hardware wallets. And hardware wallets factor greatly in our lives here. And the reason why is because with the hardware wallets, then it would take a lot in order to hack a hardware wallet. And in fact, there's one that's like a separate, it's a separate device that you can also buy. And I think I looked up on Amazon, it was $150. So if you are planning on doing a lot of transactions, it's best to get a hardware wallet. Okay, so we're going to talk about regulation. So security trading requires SEC approval. So what this means is that if you're going to do any sort of transaction where it's Bitcoin to security or security to Bitcoin, that needs to get SEC approval. And then the other thing is that if you're planning on exchanging money, so if you're planning on doing dollars to Bitcoin or Bitcoin to dollars, you need a money transmitter license. And then that kind of, so KYC is know your customer, which means that they're going to ask for information from you. They're going to ask for identifying information. And AML is anti-money laundering. I almost thought I put it the wrong way. So AML is anti-money laundering, and so that's why that they have all of these laws surrounding it. So they will ask you. They'll probably ask to see your license and to get more information from you than you would think with Bitcoin, but it's only because of this requirement for the money transmitter license. And the important thing to remember here is that consumers and merchants it doesn't require a license at all. So if you are a merchant and you want to accept Bitcoin, or if you are a consumer and you want to buy something in Bitcoin, that doesn't require a license. So it's only when you're kind of exchanging things. So it's exchanging Bitcoin for dollars or Bitcoin for anything else, or if you're doing Bitcoin for securities or securities to Bitcoin. So I think that's kind of the important distinction. If you're just doing Bitcoin, it's fine, doesn't require approval. But if you are doing any sort of exchanging, then that will need approval by the proper authorities. Okay, so now we're going to go on to taxation, another fun topic. I put the two fun topic slides together. So tax is based on market value when Bitcoin was received or sold. So this is important because the Bitcoin price has been really volatile recently. I mean, I remember when it traded up, it was so high, and then it crashed, and then it went back up again. And it is a volatile currency. So due to this, that the tax is based on the market value when the Bitcoin was received or sold. So the other important thing to remember is that IRS treats Bitcoin as property. That's they did that last year. And that money made on Bitcoin and Bitcoin mining is taxable. So if you bought Bitcoin when it was $10 and now it's trading at around 270, then you will have to pay capital gains on that on that money. And the great thing is that there's a company called LibreTax that's out of California, and you can actually send them your transactions, your addresses, and then they'll be able to go back and calculate the taxes for you. And if you are doing Bitcoin mining, then yes, income tax is applicable. So, for instance, if you are doing Bitcoin mining, then you will need to file a 1099 miscellaneous. Okay, now we're on to the fun part, spending the money. So there are online stores such as Overstock that accept Bitcoin. There's also Newegg, and there's also kind of rumblings that eventually PayPal might accept Bitcoin. So, but that's just rumblings at this point. The other thing is that you can turn Bitcoin into gift cards. That's what we do frequently as a family, is that we turn Bitcoin into cards. We've done for Target, Toys R Us, Starbucks is a popular one at our house. But there's a long list of different gift cards that you can use, and the website is gift.com. The other one is at local retail stores and restaurants. And actually, if you Google there's a number of sites where you can search locally and find retail stores or restaurants that accept Bitcoin. Pay for hotels and flights. This is a new one. You can pay for hotels through Expedia using Bitcoin. But I'm going to tell you right now that they're non-refundable. So you might want to think twice before you do it. You just want to make sure that you're going to go there and make sure you don't live in some place that snows. We had that happen where we paid for a hotel night in Bitcoin and there's no way for them to change anything. It was kind of a mess. The other way is that there's a website called cheapair.com and you can actually book your flights using Bitcoin. The other way is two-way Bitcoin ATM. So you can go ahead and you can change your Bitcoin into, I was going to say fiat, into whatever paper currency you're using. And one that's developing and it's continuing to develop is the Bitcoin credit card. And so that is where you can actually spend directly out of your credit card account. So I'm going to pause here. We'll pause here. And I know I'm going through everything super fast. Let's see here. And we'll switch it to me. Ah, there I am. Okay. Now it's time for questions. So let's see. Bring up this and this and this. And does anybody have any questions that I can answer? If I'm going too fast, too slow, I don't know which way I'm going. Sure. Okay, I like to play. Okay, so my favorite part is what Bitcoin can actually do for the world. So there is so much that Bitcoin can do that we're just starting to scratch the surface. There are lots of great projects out there in the world, but I just wanted to highlight some of them. One of them is BitGive Foundation, and this one is actually where they do a lot of things with health and clean water. Another one is Wikimedia, which is behind Wikipedia. I think everyone's favorite encyclopedia. And third one is Greenpeace. So you can give money, you can give Bitcoin to Greenpeace and to the United Way, or to your favorite project or charity. You know, like let's get more organizations accepting Bitcoin as a method of donation. Okay, so now I'm going to run through a couple of quick examples. So here are some examples of people that could use Bitcoin. So an online retailer. So there's a great plugin between WooCommerce and Coinbase, so that you can actually accept Bitcoin at the end of your transaction. Another one is online e-products. So you could do this a couple of different ways. So one of the ways would be to actually send a Bitcoin invoice, like I talked about earlier, or you can actually just put a Bitcoin button. So, or, you know, like I said, you can combine WooCommerce and the power of Coinbase together. Local restaurant and retailer. So for a local restaurant and retailer, so there are many different ways. There are lots of resources out there, and if you're interested, just let me know. Another one is to send money to relatives and friends, so that you can. So if you have relative or friend's address, then you can send Bitcoin to them. And like I said, it's very quick. You know, it's 10 minutes. It's around 10 minutes, and you can send it anywhere in the world. So the last ones that you can exchange Bitcoins to dollars, euros, gold, silver, platinum, etc. So this is one called BitReserve, and the guy behind it is Halsey Minor, and he actually did he started what became Google Voice. So this is where you can actually put in Bitcoin and then decide how you want to store it. So which is kind of innovative. Okay, so we are launching a new Facebook group called Chicks for Bits, and this is my attempt at a logo that I did early this morning. And so what we'll be talking about is we'll be talking about using Bitcoin, and I'll be putting some exclusive trainings up there on how to get started with Coinbase and other wallet providers, and just kind of support and get more women using Bitcoin. Okay, it is Q&A time.